This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about learning how to live well on your own terms. Welcome to the Unusual Yogi Podcast, a space for living, moving, and resting beyond the wellness norm. I'm Meaghan, and here we have honest conversations about chronic pain, movement, rest, ADHD, and generally what it means to do life differently in a body and a brain that don't always follow the rules. I want to make it clear that this podcast isn't about optimization or really about discipline at all. And it's really definitely not about pushing through at all cost. This is a space to learn how to listen and learn how to trust yourself again. I really wanted to start this podcast because honestly, this conversation feels very quiet. Like there's not a lot of talk going on around these subjects. We talk about movement all the time. We talk about wellness all the time. And sure, there are tons of podcasts out there that talk about ADHD or chronic pain if you're looking for that. But something that I noticed is inside the wellness and movement space, we don't really talk too much about what happens when your body hurts, either because you have chronic pain or chronic illness, or we talk a little bit about what happens when your nervous system is fried. But as an example, nobody talks about what it's like to have ADHD in a yoga class, or what it's like when you have this brain that wants to do literally everything and has 1.5 million plans and has this idea of who it wants to be, and your body's like, not today, friend. Maybe not ever. No, I'm kidding. Definitely someday, but definitely not today. And honestly, I remember the first time I was told that I have suspected endometriosis. And I remember that doctor telling me that working out should really help with the pain. And okay, at first I thought it was true. I wanted it to be true. I thought that, if I push through my awful pain days where I don't even feel like standing, maybe I'll get better. And instead, as I'm sure some of you can imagine, I had worse flare-ups and more pain. And it got to the point where I truly thought that maybe I was making it up in my head and that the pain wasn't real. And I got really, really upset. So I started to look things up for myself and found out that the generalization of working out will help is in fact a generalization. As an example, it turns out that aerobic exercise is good for endometriosis. As an example, yoga or Pilates. And I have always been somebody who has been practicing yoga on and off. I say always, it's been a better half of a decade, currently a decade. When I became a teacher, it was a better half of a decade. And this journey is what made me decide to become a yoga teacher. I figured that maybe if I started practicing more and teaching others, that it would really help with my physical health, because it helps so much with my mental health when I first started taking yoga as a student regularly. Do I even know how to talk? Apparently not. So yoga honestly became my practice. It became my place because I used it and it worked so well for my mental health, my emotions, my anger, my ADHD, and it became my therapy for a very long time. So I figured, all right, let's make it our physical therapy. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to not only make my mind a better place to live in, but I'm going to make my body a better place to live in. And this is just my lived experience. I I could already guess how many times you've probably been pushed towards a movement practice or a wellness space that just wasn't for you. And maybe it didn't suit your needs. Maybe it did. That would be good. Maybe it didn't suit what you needed in your body or mind at that point. Or maybe it was even just forced on you, or it was just something that wasn't exactly it, and it gave you a negative idea in your mind about what movement was supposed to be like. For example, I know sometimes fitness instructors can be bad for it, doctors, parents, even friends, as much as they mean well. I know that sometimes people will make you feel a little less than, or like you're supposed to be doing more, because they don't really understand what it's like to live in a body like yours. And I know that some of you who are going to come on here have maybe felt unwelcome in a movement or a wellness space. So that is why I decided to create this podcast. I really just wanted to create a space where I can make people feel less alone, where I could help people stop believing that rest is something that needs to be earned. Maybe a space where you might explore the idea that movement doesn't have to be a punishment, or where you learn that your body and mind aren't really the problems that you need to solve. So from here, I want to talk a little bit about why I chose the episode title Movement as Therapy. I think a lot of people hear that and kind of get a little confused. Maybe they get their own ideas, but maybe generally a little confusion. That's fine. When I say movement as therapy, I don't mean movement as a fix. I don't think that this is like the cure-all to everything. To me, movement as therapy means learning how to live well on your own terms, shifting from fighting with your body to trusting its cues. And I know for me, it took such a long time. I thought movement had to look a very specific way. I thought that I had to take exercise classes that were hard, that I needed to sweat and lift weights and push myself and push through the pain and do all of these things. And only then would it be truly exercise and the thing that would make me healthy again or lessen pain again. And you have no idea how long it took before I realized that exercise can be really gentle. Like a gentle hatha class, that could be a really nice exercise for you one day. Like even doing a yin class instead of a Pilates class or instead of weight training, it might serve your body better that day, and therefore doesn't that make it the better exercise, the better movement practice? And sometimes, especially for people with chronic pain and ADHD, I've noticed that gentle movement is actually the most powerful option. It is the best option in my opinion, because the weird paradox that I know I'm going to sound like the annoying person in your life who force movement down your throat. I'm not trying to do that, I swear. The weird paradox is that when your body hurts, you don't want to move, but often movement is the thing that will make you feel better. Or when you're stuck in your brain and you can't focus or you feel like scattered, sometimes moving is the best thing that you could do, and maybe you'll feel it immediately. Probably not. You probably won't feel it immediately or super dramatically, and it won't just be like a light switch, right? But it will happen sustainably. Over time, you'll notice that things just start to feel better. Like with my ADHD, I noticed that movement just changes everything. Like I could focus better. I regulate my emotions better. I used to be an angry girl. I used to be such an angry girl. And no more. We're not angry anymore. Restless. Oh my God. The restlessness that I've experienced in my life, better. And all of this because finally your brain is learning how to just give off its own serotonin, make its own dopamine, and you thrive off those endorphins and you become better. And I've noticed that when I move my body instead of against it, my patience improves and my emotional reactions soften. I'm often more regulated, is what I'm trying to say. And my pain feels more manageable. It's not always gone, but it's definitely less overwhelming. It doesn't take over every thought. Some days for me now have gotten a lot better to the point where I might not even feel any pain. And that's not to say that movement cures everything. Movement didn't cure anything for me, but it did make my life more livable. And I think that matters almost more than anything else. So with all of this, I wanted to come towards the end of our podcast today being really clear about what this podcast is not. This podcast will never be medical advice. I'm not here to diagnose you. I'm not here to prescribe something. I'm not here to tell you what you should be doing. This is a place that is not intended ever to make you feel bad or like you're not doing enough and that you need to do more. You do not need to earn rest. You do not need to justify your limits. You don't even need to prove your pain or exhaustion for it to be real. It is real. End of story. I want you to leave this episode feeling like, okay, I could go slower. And if you do, and it gives you the excitement to try moving even just slower today, then this first episode has done its job. You should all know also that I'm still very much learning and I'm still figuring out how to be a better teacher, a better student. I need to go to more classes. I'm not going to lie to any of you. The student part definitely needs to be worked on. And in saying that, I probably should also be a little bit more empathetic to myself, and I'm sure that resonates with a lot of you. I think we could all be a little bit more empathetic to yourself. I like to tell my classes to speak to themselves like they would someone that they love dearly. And I think that you should too, especially on hard days. So should I. It's okay. We'll get there together because, I'm learning over and over again, not only that rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement, and that I'm not going to be perfect every day. And while it's not something that I've mastered by any means, it's something that I practice. And speaking well to myself is also something that I've been learning how to practice. And, some days I do that very well, and some days I do not. And I would love for this podcast to reflect that honesty, to reflect that imperfection, not only in myself, but maybe that you see it too, and you see how beautiful that imperfection is. I'm hoping that this becomes a space where we could learn how to do all of this together. We could learn how to regulate together, how to trust ourselves together, how to move together, how to be more comfortable with ourselves together. Again, learning how to trust your body is so incredibly important, and learning how to find legitimate, healthy ways to make yourself feel good is kind of magical. It's amazing. Like, I want you all to feel better. I want you all to thrive, honestly. I think that at the end of the day, I know that this podcast will reach the people who get what it's like to have a brain that wants to do all of the things and wants you to be everything and do everything and know what it's like to have a body that's incredibly tired or that hurts or that isn't everyone's normal, whatever that's supposed to mean. And I know that it's going to take time for all of us to get there, but I think that we could do that together. I hope that on this journey together that you could learn how to love movement, whether you have a complicated relationship with it or not, or maybe currently you just don't know how to get there. This is the space for you. This is the space where we will learn together how to meet ourselves where we are instead of where we should be. Who knew that that was a thing that we could all do together, but it is. And I hope that we can all find ourselves during this time and come back to a version of ourselves that feels really delicious and can do all the things that your brain so craves for you to do. I want to thank you all so much for spending this time with me. If something in this episode resonated, please let me know in the comments. I want to hear about it. I hope that you can take what you need, leave the rest, leave my rambles away for another time. Maybe we'll speak to you someday. You could find me at the Unusual Yogi on Instagram. I'm trying to work on actually posting on TikTok and now YouTube, so you could try and follow me there too. It's always going to be the same name, the Unusual Yogi. And until next time, I hope that you take care of yourself in the ways that actually work for you. And if this podcast supports you, please leave a review or share it with somebody who you might think it will help. Because sometimes with these things, it helps more than you'll ever know. I hope to see you next week. Bye.